This is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to the WHTC Morning News for this Tuesday, June 8th. Tuesday mornings, we have a chance to chat on a regular basis with one of the two men who represent the Lake Shore in the U.S. House. He is House Representative Fred Upton from St. Joseph, who represents Allegan County, or most of Allegan County in the U.S. House, and he is on the other end of our Zoom connection. Fred, good morning. Welcome back to WHTC.
Hey, good morning to you. We got a little rain over here in Berrien yesterday. That was helpful. We need a little bit more for our farmers. Yeah,
it's just make sure we get a little bit more, but not all at once, because we don't need to have all this ponding and water over roads issues that has. Let's not get started on that, shall we? Let us move forward, though. There are a few things I need to talk to you about. First of all, right off the bat, we had a internet outage involving some websites, not ours, but some of the other websites. Apparently, it was a glitch of a cloud company that handled some of the websites, including Gannett and the New York Times and other entities. And considering with that, Fred, as well as with what happened with the breaches over in with the pipelines and the infrastructure breaches as well with security, it's got to be a concern, Fred, about cybersecurity. And of course, to a certain extent, the House Energy and Commerce Committee has some jurisdiction on this as well. So how concerned should we be about some rogues, say in the boiler rooms of Central Siberia or maybe in China on this?
Well, I'm real concerned about this. This is no laughing matter, and this is not just a wake-up call. We've seen a number of these stories for many, many years now. In fact, there was a report as it relates to ransomware over the weekend that there were as many as 15,000 ransomware attacks in the United States just this last year. And so it's actually, your question is particularly timely. For a number of reasons. Number one, next week when Congress is back in session, I asked for, and we're going to get a classified briefing, our committee on the Colonial Pipeline. That happened just before Congress left town. I spent some time with our secretary, former governor of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm, about this. Just prior to when we left, we're going to find out. We know how damaging it was. Even a week later, the gas stations in D.C., 90% of them didn't have gas for lots of different reasons. But major states like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all had significant outages. 75 to 90% of their gas stations were without fuel for literally days. And of course, as we know, Colonial did pay a ransom, $4.4 million. Probably a drop in the bucket in terms of their revenues, but they paid it almost right away. And the good news yesterday, it was reported, of course, that the feds were actually to recover most of that money. In fact, the money that they didn't get was just because the value of the Bitcoin dropped. So pretty much they got it all back. But it is a continuing threat. And as I've talked to, we know about hospitals, we know about broadcasters, we know about companies. A major shipping company a few years ago, Mars, lost everything, and they had to literally idle their ships off our coast, one of the largest shipping companies in the world. But conclusion I'm coming to is today, our Consumer Protection Subcommittee, a subcommittee that I serve, and we have the Secretary of Commerce coming to testify on the budget of the Department of Commerce. I'm going to ask specifically about what are they doing to help prepare companies across the country? Where is it in their budget so that we can help prevent these things from happening? I know that when Biden meets with Putin in the later on this month, this needs to be right at the top of the agenda. They need to know that they're going to be, there's pretty good proof that much of this is coming from Russia. It's got to stop. They have to help us get this thing stopped. We saw with JBS this last week, and of course we have a JBS facility in Plainwell, but a major meat supplier across the country, they were stopped as well. And you just wonder where this domino is going to go next. It's got to stop. We need to have the resources to help our companies across the country be able to prevent this. Again, Secretary Granholm said this last week, again, no surprise to us, the threat to the grid, our electric grid, and the resilience of it is at real threat. And we've got to do everything that we can to prevent an attack on our energy systems.
Could it be equated, and I may be reaching a little on this, Fred, could it be equated to what happened at the World Trade Center a few years before 9/11? We got some warning signs that they were going to be targeted, and eventually it did get targeted on 9/11/01, but we had some attacks earlier on, sort of like a warning signs. Could this be like a warning signs as well in that regard?
Well, we've had plenty of warning signs. So again, when the Colonial Pipeline happened, I said, this is not a wake-up call. We've seen these signals for years now. They're just getting more bold, but it's got to stop. So it was really good news yesterday when we got, a lot of the money back for Colonial. But you just look at other systems. I mean, whether it's an Amazon, whether it's Consumers Energy, whether it's one of our nuclear plants, whether it's one of our dams out west with water, with flooding, with security, and the list is a long one. I mean, you can remember down in Florida a few months ago about a water supply that was threatened. Are they putting the right chemicals into the water, and was it going to be contaminated? I mean, all of those things threaten the security of the United States, and it's got to be stopped. This has got to be a very high priority. It needs to be in the budget. Most companies are aware of this. They need help. We need every tool in the toolbox to try and stop this from happening.
We're talking with Representative Fred Upton, U.S. House Representative Fred Upton, and something we discussed 2 weeks ago, the last time we had a conversation, Fred, dealing with some concerns about sediment collecting in the St. Joseph Harbor. You were in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers to deal with that particular issue. Last week, you sent a letter basically saying, let's pass this portion of the president's budget that deals with harbor dredging, not only in St. Joe, but other harbors along the lakeshore to be able to address some of the commerce issues that comes when these harbors are not dredged. And a lot of the commerce that comes in via these barges, these lake barges, if they can't come in, we got problems.
Well, we do. So two bits of news here. Number one, it looks like the dredging now has started in the St. Joe River. I was able to get emergency money from the Corps of Engineers. They realized the urgency of this. I was in your neck of the woods earlier this week. 3 stretches, I-96 are, diverted right now into, in essence, 2 lanes between Saugatuck and Grand Rapids. That work will stop if we don't get the sand and gravel in to pour the concrete to get it done. And of course, we have a limited construction season. Where are those workers going to go? Probably someplace else if, in fact, the construction is stopped. So that just lengthens the time that it takes to get it done and also increases dramatically the cost of finishing that project. So the good news is that the dredging is now started in the St. Joe Harbor. Should only take a few days. It's literally around where the railroad bridge is in St. Joe, where the real glitch is. And literally, next week, I think you'll start seeing a number of lake freighters come in with their piles of sand and their cargo holds that are going to be building up in the port of St. Joe and Benton Harbor that can be delivered literally within hours to those construction sites and keep them going. We have the same issue on I-94 in Kalamazoo, where we're expanding it to 6 lanes there between Portage and Sprinkle Road. We have the Indiana Toll Road, and of course, we have a major intersection here in the Twin Cities with US 31 connecting with I-94 and 96. So again, all that work would come to a stop without this dredging. That's number one. Number two, the issue that will probably take us, the Congress, and through the summer, and that is a major infrastructure bill. Now, we haven't seen one pass in a long time. We got a lot of converging issues that are coming together. The highway bill, which is the authorization ends. We're probably going to have that on the House floor in the next week or two. But there is a major, Build America plan. The president proposed, we talked about this before, more than $2 trillion for lots of things, as I say, including the kitchen sink. A lot of negotiations, House and Senate. Our Problem Solvers Caucus is convening again this afternoon. We're looking at putting together an alternative that we think that will be bipartisan if it's adopted, that really sets and establishes a framework of what are our infrastructure needs. No, it's not going to be 2.2 trillion, but it'll be higher than what the Senate proposal, the Republican proposal is now. And I think maybe we can find the sweet spot that'll attract bipartisan votes and really do the job that Americans want us to do. Waterways and ports are part of that, as well as highways and bridges. But things that are not what I'll call brick and mortar, they're really not going to be part of this package. We have to pay for it. And that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at too. But I hopefully by the end of the week, our Problem Solvers Caucus will have a proposal that we can publicly float that's had a lot of discussion over the last number of weeks.
He is Congressman Fred Upton. He joins us on Tuesday mornings, talk about some of the issues going on in Washington. Fred, have a safe trip to Washington over the next week or so. I know you'll get back to sessions, back to votes. And if all goes well, let's do this again next Tuesday morning.
It'll happen. Look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Fred Upton, on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.